This is week 2, unit 4, Greek religion. And we start by looking at Mount Olympus, the home of the gods. This is an actual mountain in northern Greece, and you can see why the ancient Greeks believed that it was the home of the gods. It's tall, it dominates the landscape, it's forbidding, it doesn't look like a place that would be very comfortable for humans, but it does look like some divine power might well reside there. Greek religion is enormously influential, in part because when the Roman Empire conquered Greece, they took the Greek gods and merged them into Roman religion so that the Greek gods became the Roman gods, and then those gods were worshipped throughout the length and breadth of the Roman Empire for as long as the empire remained pagan. That is, until Emperor Constantine converted to Christianity in the 3rd century AD. So for a long time, the Greek gods were spread widely throughout the Mediterranean. Their worship was also spread, of course, before that by Alexander the Great, and Greek mythology and the Greek deities became a sort of fundamental part of European culture. Now, each of the gods have a Greek name and then another Roman name, and sometimes the Roman name is more familiar, sometimes the Greek name is more familiar. This is Zeus. He is the king of the gods. The Romans called him Jupiter. He is the god of thunder. Now, Greek gods are not like the Christian God. They are not omnipotent. They are not omniscient. They are certainly not always loving. They are more like people. They are like sort of super powerful people who have dominance over one or another aspect of human life. And in this, they're quite a bit like Egyptian gods and the gods of Mesopotamia and the gods in most ancient religions, which are polytheistic religions. In other words, many gods have effect on human lives. None of them is predominant over all the others, though Zeus in Greek mythology is the most powerful of the gods. He's the father of many of the gods. He's the ruler of the gods. He's the sky god, the god of thunder. His brother, Poseidon, whom the Romans called Neptune, is the god of the sea. So enormously important god in Greek mythology and in Greek life, given the importance of the sea for the Greeks. They were a seafaring people, and offerings to Poseidon were given before people went on voyages. Poseidon rules the sea, just like Zeus rules the sky. The third brother is Hades, or as the Romans called him, Pluto, and he's the god of the underworld. So notice, no one god rules over the land where human beings live. One god rules the sky, another rules the sea, another rules the underworld, and they all influence human life. Pluto is represented here with his 3-headed dog Cerberus, who guards the souls of the dead and keeps them in Hades, which is not only the name of the god, but also the name of the place where he lives. Zeus is married to Hera, or as the Romans called her, Juno. She is the goddess of marriage and the wife of Zeus. Zeus, unfortunately for Hera, is always running around having affairs with all sorts of other people, mostly female, but sometimes, as in the case of Ganymede, his cupbearer male. And this means that Hera spends a lot of time being angry at Zeus and being angry at all the people that Zeus is having affairs with, often, by the way, totally against their will. Zeus is takes what he wants in sometimes very obnoxious ways. Hera is a very powerful goddess, and getting her on your bad side, or getting on her bad side, is very bad for you. This is the problem for one of the most famous heroes in Greek mythology, Hercules, or as the Greeks called him, Heracles. Hera didn't like him because he was the son of Zeus by another woman, and she persecuted him and fought with him. This is a role that she often has in the various stories connected with the Greek gods. Apollo is the god of the sun, also the god of poetry and music, and we see him here holding the lyre, which he plays. The kind of music that Apollo patronizes is music made with stringed instruments. Music made with wind instruments belongs to another god, to Bacchus. Apollo's sister is Artemis, or as the Romans called her, Diana. She's the goddess of chastity and hunting, and you may think, well, why is she the goddess of chastity and hunting? How is that connected? Well, what do hunters do? Hunters hunt wild animals. Wild animals can be seen as symbolic of animal passion or animal lust, and so the goddess of chastity runs around killing the wild beasts. In other words, she tames human nature by attacking the animal side of us, and this is what Artemis does, sometimes very forcefully, in all sorts of stories from Greek mythology. Here is Athena, or as the Romans called her, Minerva. She's the goddess of wisdom, and the image of Athena here comes from an Athenian owl coin, which were some of the most common silver coins used in the Mediterranean during the time that Athens was a dominant power. Athena is the goddess of wisdom. The animal associated with her is an owl, who they were thought to be particularly wise birds. And so Athena with her owl here. Athena is the daughter of Zeus, but she is born straight from his head. She jumps out of his head, and that makes sense if you think that she's the goddess of wisdom. It's like Zeus had the best idea ever, and this is Athena. Athena is, on the one hand, a female god. She's a goddess, but she is also very powerful in war. She's always shown wearing armor and carrying a spear, and she's a warrior goddess. So it's an interesting combination of attributes there. And of course, she is the patron goddess of the city of Athens, which is named for Athena. Aphrodite, Venus, the goddess of love. Very different from Athena. Here she's shown in a typical posture from Greek and Roman sculpture. She may seem to be weaker than Athena because she is naked rather than armored, but love is very powerful, and being the goddess of sensuality means that Aphrodite, or Venus, has enormous power to disrupt and confuse human life. Aphrodite's lover is Ares, or as the Romans called him, Mars, the god of war. This is one of the cases where the Roman name is clearly more common than the Greek name. Mars is a more common name than Ares to most of us. This may be because the Romans were so devoted to war. Ares is not particularly bright. He usually loses when he fights Athena because she's a warrior goddess and she's also smart, but he is the spirit of warfare, of aggression, of fighting. In the ancient world, this was not always considered a bad thing. Demeter, or Ceres, is the goddess of the harvest. She is one of the goddesses who appears less often, maybe in mythological stories, but she's enormously powerful and was widely worshipped because there's nothing more important in an ancient society than the harvest. You need food to live. Here we have Demeter holding a little piglet, which is kind of cute. You need to get messages from one place to another, and the gods used Hermes, or as the Romans called him, Mercury, the messenger of the gods. He's shown with his staff, the caduceus, which has become an emblem for medicine as well. He was known as a trickster god, someone who could play tricks on people and change the outcome of events, and that may have something to do with his connection to medicine. You trick a disease and conquer it. He also is thought to be very, very fast moving, and he usually is shown, though not here, with little wings on his feet to show that he has winged feet and he can fly fast from one place to another. Here is a picture of Dionysus, or as the Romans called him, Bacchus, the god of intoxication and ecstasy. He is the god of wine, but he's also the god of theater. He's the god, some people say, of ecstasis. That is, anytime you're standing outside of your ordinary life, the god of ecstasy. This is very powerful, but also potentially very destructive. And Dionysus is an enormously powerful god, often seen as a kind of insurgent god, a new god who comes in to shake things up. He's not one of the original 12 gods and goddesses who are thought to live on Mount Olympus.